Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we've got another game review recap to discuss. Lots of fantastic game action from the last couple of days, and we'll touch on all of it coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Internet Talkie Show. Before I begin, remember to like this video, and if you really like to, remember to subscribe down below. We're so close to 100 subscribers, so thank you for all of your support. Never be able to do this with all of you guys. So remember, don't forget to subscribe. As usual, I'm going to do another game review recap here from the last couple of days, talking about all the games that have happened over the past 3 days of NHL action. We had a ton of NHL action over the past couple of days. We had 9 games on Saturday, we had 4 games on Sunday, and we had another 9 games yesterday on Monday. So I'll try and touch on all these games here quickly in this video. So we'll start with Saturday's games. There was 9 games. We got kicked off at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time between the Ducks and the Flyers. This was a really good game. The Ducks would get up to a 4-0 lead. Flyers would make it 4-2 interesting, but the Ducks would pull ahead. They wound up winning this game 7-4. It was a really good game for Anaheim. They continue to push on. They really are doing fantastic right now. That was their 3rd straight win and got themselves to a 4-4-0 record. Dropped the Flyers to a 4-3-1 record. So a fantastic win there for the Anaheim Ducks. Vetrano was probably the best player on the ice in that game. He did not have 1 goal. He did not have 2 goals. But he had a hat trick, including this goal here, which completed the hat trick for him and extended the Ducks' lead in that game. So, fantastic goal for Vetrano. Remember, all clips are credited to Sportsnet, but it was just a great goal for Vetrano, a fantastic game for Vetrano. At that point, he had 8 goals in 8 games and looked lethal. It was the 2nd hat trick of the season. So, Vetrano looks fantastic right now, but he was a major part in helping that team win. He had a hat trick. Ryan Strome had a goal and 2 assists. Adam Henrique had a goal and an assist. Mason McTavish had 2 assists. Trevor Zegras and Brett Liaison also scored for the Ducks in the win. Meanwhile, Konechny scored twice for the Flyers. Brink had 2 assists for the Flyers. And then both Farabee and Atkinson also scored for Philly in the loss. So Philly, they played well, but wasn't enough this time to get the win. So they do lose in regulation this time. They're dropped in the 4-3-1. Ducks were able to get another win and improve to 4-4-0. So Ducks have really looked really good over the past couple of games. Then at 3 o'clock Pacific time, we had the Panthers take on the Seattle Kraken. That was a really good game too. The Panthers would score 3 in answer after being down 2-0 early to come away with the important 3-2 victory over the Seattle Kraken. It was a really bad fluky goal that led to the game winner for Florida. The puck bounced off the boards awkwardly. It was not where the Seattle Kraken's goaltender was expecting it, and Florida was able to put it into the open cage. So the Panthers were able to get 2 assists from Dmitry Kulikov, plus goals from Kachuk, Cousins, and Forsling to get the 3-2 victory. Borgen had 2 assists, and both McCann and Tolvanen scored for the Kraken in the loss. So once again, Seattle blew their 2nd 2-goal lead in a row, and they wound up coming on the losing side again, dropping to 2-5-2 on the year, so that's not fantastic news. Had they been able to hold on for the win, they would have been able to put up to only a game below 500, so not overly great news for Seattle. Florida, meanwhile, got up to 4-3-0, above 500 for a first time this year. That was some pretty good stuff for Florida, but it is a really bad stuff for Seattle to drop to that low. So really, really good game from both sides, but Florida's the lucky team who comes out on top. Then you had the battle between 2 of the best teams in the Atlantic Division to start the season in Boston and Detroit. It was a really good close game. Boston was able to get up to a 2-0 lead. Detroit made it 2-1, but Boston got a couple of late goals to stretch out the lead and give them the victory 4-1. So a really good win there for the Boston Bruins. Boston was able to get a 3-point game from David Pastrnak with 2 goals and 8 assists, and then both McAvoy and Zach also scored for the Bruins, while Veleno was a lone goal scorer for Detroit. So Boston comes away with a huge 4-1 victory over the Detroit Red Wings. Detroit falls to 5-3-1 on the year. Boston improves their season opening point streak to 8 games with a win, improving themselves to 7-1 on the season. So Boston looked good. They continue to do really well. Like I said, I expected them to do really well in the first 7 games, given the fact they were all mostly against lower end teams. I was saying that this next stretch of 4 games, Detroit, Florida yesterday, and then their next 2 games against Toronto and Detroit again, are going to be extremely interesting to see how Boston does. And they beat Detroit, so I'm a little surprised Boston's doing so well right now, but they're continuing to do well, continue to have a season opening point streak, so really good stuff to see from Boston. Detroit continued to fall after starting out with a 5-1-0 record after losing their first game and winning the next 5. They've now lost 3 straight. So Detroit continues to falter. Then you had the New York Islanders shutting out the Columbus Blue Jackets 2-0. Martin and Palmieri both had the 2 goals for the New York Islanders, and Varlamov stopped all 34 shots he faced in the win for the Islanders. The Isles improved to 4-2-1 on the year, dropping the Jackets to 3-3-2. The Islanders looked really good again in this game. They looked fantastic. Really, they've looked pretty good all season, and once again, strength of their team, defense, showed the Jackets. So they continue to get wins their way in their type of a game. So good to see the Owls were able to get the win. Jackets faltered. I think that was like their 3rd straight loss, but they lost 2 in overtime. So like 0-1-2 in those last 3 games, and they dropped to 3-3-2 on the year. So definitely, Jackets continue to falter a little bit here, but it was a close game, and I think the Jackets definitely did well. Then you had the Senators take on the Penguins. This was a really big, important matchup. 2 teams who are not doing overly well, who are both expected to contend for playoffs this year. The Sens were able to come out on top 5-2. Huge game there for the Senators to take that one and get the win. It improved them back up to 500 at 4-4-0, while it dropped the Penguins to 3-5-0 on the season. So really good win there for the Senators to get back up to 500. Tkachuk scored twice for the Senators in the win. Greg had a goal and an assist. Giroux and Stützle both had 2 assists, while Batherson and Kubalik, as you can see here in this clip here, but Dominic Kubalik was able to score his first as a member of the Ottawa Senators, that extended that lead to 3-0. It wound up being the eventual game winner in the 5-2 win for the Senators. So good to see Kubalik was able to get on the scoreboard. He has not had a very good start to the season, so good to see him get a goal. And that was a huge win for Senators to improve back up to 500. So Sens improved to 500, looked really good in that game. It was a huge confidence booster for them. Penguins, meanwhile, dropped to 3-5-0, and that's not a really good start for them in a season where I thought they would have a pretty good start. The Montreal Canadiens would end the Winnipeg Jets' 3-game winning streak. Jets have improved, though, to a 4-game point streak as the Montreal Canadiens were able to beat the Winnipeg Jets 4-3 in a shootout. The Canadiens improved to 5-2-1 on the year. Jets dropped to 4-3-1, so both teams doing pretty good to start the season. Montreal was able to get 2 assists from Kane Gooley. Monahan, Armia, and Baron were the goal scorers for the Canadiens in regulation. Meanwhile, Suzuki was the lone scorer for the shootout, so Canadiens looked really good there in that game. Lowry scored twice for the Jets. Niederreiter had a goal and an assist for the Jets. Appleton had 2 assists for the Jets in the loss, and they didn't score any in the shootout. So Jets still looked pretty good. They were definitely contending really well, but they did blow a 3-1 lead. Canadiens continue to be resilient, continue to come back from down some deficits, and continue to get points in places they shouldn't be. So Canadiens were able to improve, get up to a huge win there, and the Jets were falter and now are on to a 4-game point streak. The Nashville Predators were able to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-2 in overtime to improve to 4-4-0, while dropping the Maple Leafs to 5-2-1. Ryan O'Reilly, who was the former Maple Leaf who was acquired by the Leafs at the deadline last year, scored twice in the game. Roman Josi, who had the OT winner, had a goal and an assist. Luke Evangelista and Philip Forsberg had 2 assists for Nashville in the win, so lots of contributions from a lot of different places, and O'Reilly was definitely really good against his former team. Meanwhile, Giordano and Nylander were 2 scorers for the Leafs in the OT loss. So Leafs looked really good again. They outplayed Preds at times. They looked all right, but the Preds were able to sneak away with the win once again on the back of a goaltender Juuse Saros. So really good for Nashville to get back to 500. Meanwhile, the Leafs go 3-1-1 on their road trip, and that was a pretty good road trip for them. Then you had the New York Rangers take on the Vancouver Canucks. Rangers had a fantastic game in my opinion, and they were able to come away with an OT victory, winning over the Canucks 4-3 in overtime. Rangers improved to 6-2-0, dropping the Canucks to 5-2-1. Both teams have had fantastic starts to the year. Zibanejad had a 3-point night with a goal and 2 assists. Panarin and Fox both had a goal and an assist. Keandre Miller also scored for the Rangers. It was the 0-2 winner in the win for the New York Rangers. Meanwhile, Ronick had 2 assists for the Canucks, and Myers, Seuss, and JT Miller all scored for the Canucks in the OT loss. So the Canucks had a pretty good game. They got a lot of contributions from everywhere. They still looked really, really good. Like they played the St. Louis Blues the night before. They looked really, really good. But the Rangers were able to come away with the victory, and they ended up with 4 straight road wins on their 5-game road trip at that point. So Rangers looked really good, and the Canucks really continued to do overly fantastic this year to start the season. And I think a 5-2-1 record in their first 8 games is a ton better than the 1-5-2 record they had in their first 8 games last year. So I think the Canucks fans are pretty happy, and I think the Canucks players are pretty happy with their start to this year. And then in a really heated battle between two Pacific Division teams, top Pacific Division teams this year, as you can see right now by the standings. The Vegas Golden Knights were able to oust the LA Kings in a shootout, 4-3, to improve their season opening point streak to 9 games and improve to 8-0-1. Dropping the Kings to 4-2-2. So Kings continue to remain a point back of the Canucks. Stone, Carey, and Amadio scored in regulation, while Eichel was the lone shootout scorer for the Knights. Meanwhile, Doughty, Laferriere, and Lewis were the 3 goal scorers for the Kings in the loss. So it was definitely a really close, tightly contested game. The Kings were able to tie it late thanks to a Drew Doughty goal, but it was wound up being the Knights winning in a shootout. And that was a huge win for the Knights, continues their point streak, and they just continue to look like one of the best teams in the NHL. So Vegas continues to do some really fantastic things out there. But that was the last game on Saturday. Then we head over to Sunday. The Sabres were able to shut out the Avalanche 4-0. It was a very, very fantastic game for the Sabres. Looked like they really got back on their game. This was the second consecutive time the Avalanche got shut out. So after starting the season with 6-0-0, they've now been shut out in back-to-back games, losing 4-0 in back-to-back games. So the Sabres were able to get 2 assists from Skinner, while Jost Milstead, Peterka, and Dahlin were the other 4 goal scorers for the Sabres in the 4-0 win. And on top of that, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who was coming in with Comrie and Levi right now injured, he stopped all 23 shots he faced in his first career shutout victory at the NHL level. So Luukkonen had a fantastic game. I think it was well-deserved, well-earned, and Luukkonen finally gets himself a shutout. Meanwhile, the Avs fall to 6-2-0, like I said. They've now lost 2 back-to-back 0-4 games. Last time it was to Pittsburgh, now it's to Buffalo. Avalanche need to try and find their offensive game because it's sort of faltering a little bit right now. Only 2 games, so I wouldn't be overly concerned, but the Avs really need to find a way to put the puck in the net in their next game. Sabres, meanwhile, starting to find their offensive game. Their defensive game's looking a little bit better. This Sabres team's looking a little bit better. They're now up to 4-5-0 on the season. So, good to see the Sabres were able to get a win. Then we had the Devils take on the Minnesota Wild. New Jersey was able to escape with a 4-3 victory, improving to 5-2-1, dropping the Minnesota Wild to 3-4-2. They had a 3-point night from Jesper Bratt with 2 goals and an assist. Luke Hughes had a 2-assist night, and then both Hull and Toffoli also scored for the Devils in the win. Meanwhile, Maroon had a goal and an assist for the Minnesota Wild, and then Middleton and Hartman scored for the Wild in the loss. They dropped in 3-4-2. So the Wild didn't look overly out of place. Devils continue to look really, really good, improving the 5-2-1 and having a great start to the season. Wild did not look overly out of place against one of the better teams of the league, but they do come away with the short end of the straw and do wind up losing. So it was a really close game, but the Wild do lose to the Devils, and it was a really winnable game in my opinion for the Minnesota Wild. The Sharks were able to take a 1-0 lead into the third period against the Washington Capitals, and that did not last long. Caps were able to score 3 third period goals and down the San Jose Sharks 3-1 to keep the San Jose Sharks winless. Carlson and Ovechkin both had 2 assists, while Strome, Wilson, and Kuznetsov were 3 goal scorers for the Capitals in the win. Kunin was the lone scorer for the Sharks. Sharks are now down to 0-8-1. They have 9 goals in 9 games. This is one of the worst starts in NHL history for a team who's winless. I think the longest winless streak to begin the season was like 14-15 games. So the Sharks aren't too far off of that, and they continue to look awful. So hopefully the Sharks can turn a corner and do a lot better in the next couple of games, because they've not looked overly well over the past one. I mean, they had a lead going into the third period. This was, I think, one of the first times this season they had a lead going into the third, but once again they were not able to hold on to it. So Sharks lose. Sharks drop to 0-1. Caps win. They're now above 500 with 3 straight wins, improving to 4-3-1. So Caps look alright and are able to be the worst team in the NHL right now. Then you had the Heritage Classic, as both the Oilers and the Flames did battle. Really good game. I saw a little bit of it. I watched some of the highlights as well. A really good game. It looked like it was a great atmosphere. These 2 teams were both coming in with 4-game losing streaks. So instead of this being a game where both teams are battling it out for like top-end spots in the Pacific, both teams are trying to end really, really bad losing streaks and sort of use this as a stepping stone to improve their season. And it was the Oilers who came away with the victory over the Calgary Flames, 5-2. A huge victory for Edmonton, but the Oilers were able to end their losing streak and get a huge must-needed win over the rival Flames. Kane had a 3-point night with a goal and 2 assists. Hyman had a goal and an assist. Draisaitl had 2 assists. Kulak, This goal here from Evan Bouchard, which was an absolute blast, which gave the Oilers a 3-1 lead at one point in the game, and Desharnais all scored for the Edmonton Oilers in the win in the Heritage Classic. Meanwhile, for the Calgary Flames, Mackenzie Weegar had 2 assists, while both Kadri and AJ Guerrero, which was his first as a member of the Flames, scored in the Heritage Classic, but it was not enough for the Flames, and they do falter. So Flames drop to a bad 2-6-1 start of the season. Not a fantastic start there for the Flames. Meanwhile, the Edmonton Oilers have now improved to 2-5-1 this season. And could this be a stepping stone for the Oilers to do well over the next little while? It's possible. Is this just a win for the Edmonton Oilers against the worst Calgary Flames team? That's also possible. So we'll have to wait and see, but it's a good win for the Edmonton Oilers. Huge win in the Heritage Classic to improve their record. Meanwhile, the Flames continue to falter and cannot get any traction under their feet right now. Then we go to yesterday's game action. We had the Boston Bruins take on the Florida Panthers. Bruins were able to come away with a 3-2 OT victory after being down 2-0 early in the game. So they once again come back. They improved to 8-1 as they start the season with a 9-game point streak, just like Vegas. They're doing fantastic to begin the season. Zach had a goal and an assist, including the OT winner for the Boston Bruins. And then both McAvoy and Marchand also scored for the Bruins in the win. Reinhart and Barkov both had a goal and an assist for the Panthers in the OT loss. So Reinhart continues his hot start. Barkov did all right, but the Panthers were not able to hold on to a 2-0 lead, and they did wind up losing 3-2 to the Boston Bruins. So really bad stuff there for the Panthers. I'm pretty sure they would have loved to beat the Boston Bruins after beating them in the playoffs last year in that 7-game series, but it was not meant to be. So Panthers drop to 4-3-1 on the year. Bruins improved to 8-1 and continue a solid 9-game point streak to begin the season. Then you had the Carolina Hurricanes come away with a huge 3-2 victory over rival Philadelphia Flyers to improve to 6-4-0 in their first 10 games. So Canes looked really good in their first 10 games. At the beginning was looking really, really rough, but they've done really well over the past couple of games, and they've on a 3-game winning streak, if I'm correct. So Canes look really good. Canes improved to 6-4-0, like I said. Nosen and Bunting both had a goal and an assist, while Teravainen had the game winner for the Canes in the win. For the Flyers, Hathaway and Tippett scored, and they dropped to 4-4-1. So Flyers have lost back-to-back games, and they are now down to 4-4-1. Meanwhile, the Canes with the huge win are up to 6-4-0. So Flyers continue to falter a little bit here after their hot start, but the Canes are up to a 3-game winning streak and look really good at this point in time. Then we had the Ducks play the Penguins. Really close back and forth action with 3-3 late, but then this goal here, a breakaway goal with just under 15 seconds left from Mason McTavish, would get the game winner before it went to overtime, as the Anaheim Ducks would end the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-3 in regulation, as they would improve their record to 5-4-0 and win their 4th consecutive game. Ducks continue to be absolutely fantastic in this game. McTavish had 3-point-night, 2 goals and an assist. Mitnyakov had a 2-assist night. Both Vetrano and Silverberg scored for the Ducks in the win. Carlson and Malkin both had a goal and an assist, and Zohorna also scored for the Penguins in the loss, as the Penguins dropped to 3-6-0. They're 3 games below 500 right now. That's not overly fantastic news for the Penguins. I was not expecting the Penguins to be that low to start the season. I was expecting them to be a little bit of a slow start, but I was not expecting them to be 3-6-0 and blowing leads like this. So I'm quite surprised that the Penguins are doing overly bad right now. I thought they would have been a little bit better. But the Penguins do lose. They're one of the worst teams in the East right now. Meanwhile, the Ducks continue to show really, really good promise, and they're up to 5-4-0 now, so looks really good for the Penguins. Then you had the Seattle Kraken get a huge win, 4-3 in overtime over Tampa. Blew another 2-goal lead to send this one to overtime, but they were able to recover and win 4-3 in overtime. They're now 3-5-2 in their first 10 games, so not an overly fantastic start for the Kraken, but given the fact they start 0-3-1 to begin the first 4 games, they are now 3-2-1 in their past 6, and they actually look pretty good. I mean, they blew a lead against the Panthers and the Canes. Had they kept those 2 games and had they actually won, they would have been 5-4-1 with a winning record. So Kraken don't look overly bad as they did early on in the season, but they are able to come away with a huge OT victory here over Tampa. The Yamamoto and Jared McCann, who had the OT winner, both had a goal and an assist. Jaden Schwartz had 2 assists. Both Gord and Dumoulin, who have scored first with the Kraken, also scored for Seattle in the win. Meanwhile, Barabule, Hagel, and Jeannot all had a goal and assist for the Bolts, who dropped to 4-2-3 on the season. So Bolts once again had a very fantastic game. Really close, tight contested affair, but it was another OT loss for them. Their done all right. They've gotten a lot of points, but they continue to get OT losses to begin the season. They're losing close games, which is not usually what we see from Tampa, so hopefully they can turn that around. Seattle, huge win. They needed that win, and they improved to 8 points in 10 games to begin the season. Then you had the New York Islanders play the Detroit Red Wings. Islanders looked really good. They had a 2-0 lead at the third period, but 3 consecutive goals from Detroit gave Detroit the lead. Islanders would send it to overtime, but then the Red Wings would win in overtime, as the Wings beat the Islanders 4-3 in overtime and improved to 6-3-1 in their first 10 games. JT Compher and Lucas Raymond, Jake Wallman all had a goal and an assist in the game. Sider had 2 assists for the Detroit Red Wings, and then Sprong also scored for Detroit in the win, while Horvat had a goal and an assist for the Isles. Dobson had 2 assists for the Isles, and Nelson and Zizekas both also scored for the Islanders in the loss, as they dropped to 4-2-2 on the season. So Islanders continue to do overly well to start the year. They've had some pretty good starts to the season, but the Red Wings do come away with the win. It's a very important win for the Red Wings to sort of shake off that 3-game losing streak, and are able to get the win to improve to 6-3-1 on the year. So huge come from behind victory there from the Red Wings to get the huge win. Then you had the Rangers are able to oust the Jets 3-2 in overtime yesterday to improve to a 7-2-0 record, dropping the Jets to 4-3-2 record. The Rangers were able to get 3.8 from Artemi Panarin with a goal and 2 assists. They had 2 assists from Keandre Miller. And then Zibanejad, the OT winner, and Chris Kreider were the other goal scorers for the Rangers. So Rangers looked fantastic. Perfetti had a 2-assist night for the Winnipeg Jets. And both Ehlers and Gustafsson also scored for the Jets in the win. Huge win there for the Rangers as they continue on with their hot start to the season. They go 5-0-0 on their Western Canadian road trip, beating the Kraken, Flames, Oilers, Canucks, and Jets, as they continue to pour it on, having a fantastic start to the season. Jets, meanwhile, do improve their point streak to 5 games at 3-0-2, but they do lose another game and drop to 4-3-2 in the season, so not overly great. They did look fantastic in this game, but it was not enough to come away with the victory, so Rangers were able to get the victory. The Stars, who were down 2-1 at the end of 1, were able to score 4 unanswered goals and beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 5-3 in this game. It was a huge game there from the Stars after the first regulation loss of the season to improve to 5-1-1. Dodonov, Johnston, and Hintz all had a goal and an assist in the game. Robertson and Ben both had 2 assists in the game, and then Thomas Harley and Matt Duchene, first as a member of the Dallas Stars, also scored for Dallas in the win. So huge game there from the Dallas Stars. Meanwhile, for the Columbus Blue Jackets, rookie Voronkov would score his first career NHL goal. Sean Corrali would score, and Damon Severson, who scores first as a member of the Jackets, would also score for the Jackets in the loss, as they lose and drop to 3-4-2 on the year. So Jackets continue their slow start to the season as they continue to lose a couple of games recently. They're not looking overly well right now. They're definitely not looking like a playoff team, but they're looking all right, and they were definitely in this game against the Dallas Stars. But the Stars continue to do really well, improve to 5-1-1, continue to look like one of the more dominant teams in the NHL and the Western Conference. So really good start there from Dallas as they continue on with their hot start. And then we had 2 other games yesterday at night. The Vegas Golden Knights were able to oust the Montreal Canadiens 3-2 in a shootout to improve their point streak to 10 games to begin the season. They are now 9-0-1, while the Canadiens dropped to a record of 5-2-2 to begin the year. The Knights were able to get regulation goals from Carrier and Cotter, while they got shootout goals from Theodore and Marshall to get the shootout victory. Meanwhile, Suzuki and Monahan scored in regulation for the Canadiens, and Suzuki also scored in the shootout for the Canadiens in the shootout loss. So Canadiens look really, really good. They continue to get points when they probably shouldn't have. They continue to push and get lots and lots of points, up to 5-2-2, which was not something I was expecting to start the year. So they've looked really good. The Knights improved to 9-0-1. They continue to lead the NHL. They continue to lead the West. They look really, really good. The Knights are only one of 10 teams to start the season with a 10-game point streak. There have only been 20 other teams who have done this. The most recent team who did do this was the Florida Panthers back in 2022 when they won the President's Trophy. They started with a 11-game point streak and wound up winning the President's Trophy 2 years ago. So Knights continue to do really well to begin the season, and they look fantastic. So really good stuff there from the Vegas Golden Knights. And then we also had a huge blowout victory. Blackhawks were able to score a goal 30 seconds into the game from Connor Bedard to open the game and get themselves a 1-0 lead over the Arizona Coyotes. They wound up losing 8-1. Arizona absolutely dominated after they gave up the first goal of the game. They improved to 4-4-0 with an 8-1 victory for the Arizona Coyotes. Michael Carcone was a fantastic guy in that game. After the Hawks were open to scoring, he would tie up the game. He would then also get the 3-1 goal, and he would get this one here, which was his hat-trick goal, his first career NHL hat-trick, to give the Arizona Coyotes a 4-1 lead, and that would kick off a huge onslaught of goals there for the Arizona Coyotes. So Carcone, first career NHL hat-trick, had a 4-point night, 3 goals and an assist. So a very fantastic game there from Carcone, who was able to get his first career NHL hat-trick. Then you also had Jack McBain, who had a 4-point game, 2 goals and 2 assists. You had Alex Kerfoot, who had a 3-assist night. Jersey and Liam O'Brien both had a goal and an assist in the game. Boyd had a 2-assist night, and Josh Brown also scored for the Arizona Coyotes in the win. So not even any of their big-time players like Keller, like Cooley, like Schmalz were huge factors offensively in this game. It was mostly their depth scoring, which is really scary if your other team is looking to face Arizona. Meanwhile, Connor Bedard scores 4th of the year. He was a lone scorer for the Chicago Blackhawks, who dropped to 3-6-0 in the season. So really bad start for the Hawks in the first 9 games, but I think this was expected. Arizona improves to 4-4-0 and they're back up to 500. So Coyotes looked really good. There was also 2 Gordie Howe hat tricks in that game for the Arizona Coyotes, as both Liam O'Brien and Jack McBain had Gordie Howe hat tricks. This was the first time in a very long time, I think it was said since 1988, that there were 2 players on the same team who wound up getting Gordie Howe hat-tricks in the same night. So really interesting stuff, but it was a fantastic night for Arizona as they obliterate the Chicago Blackhawks. So fantastic games there from all around the NHL. Definitely, we've had a busy 3 days. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on which games did you think were the most surprising, which games did you like the most. Definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments. We do have a couple of games over the next few days here. Today is October 31st. It's the last day of October. It's Halloween for whoever celebrates it. So there's only 2 games today of NHL action. The Kings and Maple Leafs will play at 5 p.m. Pacific time. The Canucks and Predators will play at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And then tomorrow we have only a handful of games. You have the Sabres take on the Flyers at 4. The Stars take on the Flames at 5:30. The Blues take on the Avs at 6:30. And the Ducks taking on the Yotes at 7. So it'll be interesting to see how those games go. We'll recap all of those games in our game review video on Thursday. But for now, that's all I'm going to talk about. Remember, don't forget to leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on who have been your surprises to start the season. Was it the Edmonton slow start? Was it Calgary slow start? Is it Anaheim doing fantastic right now? Is it Philly doing all right? Is it Montreal doing really well? Is it Detroit doing really well? Is it Boston or Vegas is starting with a really long season opening point streak? Definitely. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on who are your most surprising starts to the season down in the comments. But that's all I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, and if you really like it, remember to subscribe down below. We are so close to 200 subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. We'll never be able to do this with all of you guys, so thanks for all of your support. So don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so definitely check that out. I'll leave a link to that in the description below, and I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.